Hello and welcome everybody, this is Roland Hartmann from GraphicInMotion.com and it is tutorial time again. Welcome to part 2 of my advanced glitch effect tutorial. If you did not watch part 1, then I would highly recommend to do so. You will find a link in the video description and I will also put it in here into the info card. Okay, so I will just continue where we left off. I was finished with my displacement map and I exported it as an MP4. So I just imported it already into my project here. So now I have my displacement map as an MP4. And then I just created a new composition, my advanced glitch composition, and I just imported a footage. In this case, it's just an image, but you can of course also use video files. Now I just want to pre-compose my displacement map and then drag it into my advanced glitch composition. Let me quickly close all the other timeline panels because I will not need them right now. Okay, so now I have my displacement map here. Now the easiest and simplest way to create glitches is just to add a displacement map effect. So let's do that. Let's go to our presets, placement map, and I will just drag this on top of my footage here, and I specify my displacement map as a source here, and then if I increase this, you see what this does. Let's warp the pixels around that we do not get these black areas. And now if we create a quick run preview, you see what this does. It's already quite cool, you know. And now you see our displacement map in action for the first time. Actually, I should have done this probably in the end of the last video, but well, now we are here and I think it's good. And if you take a look here, you see exactly what I meant before when I talked about gradients and when I talked about the pixel sorter. So this creates really interesting glitches, and also these noise effects here create really interesting glitches. By the way, if you hear funny noises in the background, my son is here right now and yeah, he's having fun, obviously. Okay, so where was I? Oh yeah, noise. So these patterns that look nearly like a particle disperse or whatever, they are created by the noise that I added. You can see this right here. So these are the noise areas, and together with all these elements, it creates really interesting, really complex glitch patterns. So we could use it like this, just like this. If you are after this look, then you can stop the tutorial, the video right now, and move on with your project, but I would recommend to stay tuned because I have a few more very interesting tips for you. So first of all, I want to add a simple RGB split. You know, I think RGB splits are just cool when using glitches, so let's do that. To create an RGB split, I want to add an effect that is called set channels, and with this effect I can set the color channel of my footage or specify it, and I want to add it just before my displacement map, so I will move it on top here in my effect controls. Now the first layer I want to set the red, I will leave it at red, and I will turn off green and blue, so just turn these off, and let's call this red. Yep. Now let's duplicate this 2 times and just rename these quickly. So I will rename this one to green and the top one here to blue. Not like that, actually. I want to keep the footage in there. Yep. Now we will change a few settings. First of all, of course, on my green layer, I will turn off the red and I will specify the source for my greens to green. And I will do the same but different on my blue, so turn off the red and set the blue source to blue. Now I have my blue here, I have my green here, and I have my red here, RGB. Now let's set all of these layers to add. Actually, I don't have to set all of these layers to add. I do not have to set the last one here to add, so let's turn this back to normal. What you see here now, by the way, is the displacement map glitching through. So if I turn this off, you see we are back to our normal look of our image, but I can set this to normal as well, the base one here, and then I will not have the problem that my displacement map is shining through there. Okay, so now I could already create a simple RGB split by just changing the values of my displacement map here. So for example, if I just shift the blue a little bit, you see what this does now. And if I shift the green a little bit, then you see we have a nice RGB split. But this way, well, it's a little bit boring. You know, it's not reacting, it's not glitching. So I will approach this a little bit differently. So just for now, let's zero out all of our displacements, because I will later on control these in a different way. So let's zero out all of these values here. Okay, and now I will add a control layer. And therefore I just use null objects usually. Let's put it on top here. Let's make it invisible because I do not want to see it in my comp here. And I usually make these green. So whenever I put in some controls where you can change things, then I like to make these green. Now I will add a slider control to this null object. And this slider controller, this will be actually my displacement control or my glitch control. So let's say glitch amount here. Glitch amount is good for now. Okay. And now we will come back to our expression that I showed you in the end of part number 1, the nice expression from Dan Edwards. So I will use this expression now to create these flickering values, and I will use these flickering values to drive the displacement and also to drive a small wiggle offset. So let's do that. Let's copy this expression. Again, this expression is of course in the video description down there. So you don't have to type it, don't have to copy it from the screen. So let's put it into our slider. Oops, V. Okay, so let's put it here on our glitch amount slider. And now let's check what this is doing. And now it is creating quite nice glitches, but I think that the value is a little bit too high. So now I want to add sliders for all of these values, because I actually do not want to come in here all the time and change these values right here. I just want to have it all under control. So I will just add a new slider control, and I will just call these exactly the same as my variables here. So I will call this seg min, then I will duplicate it and call this one here seg max. By the way, this is also a very cool technique, or this is the technique that I use when I create controls for my templates. So most of the time I use slider controls, checkbox controls, all on a null, and then just pick wave or parent these values together. You will see this in a moment. So flicker duration min, and then we will duplicate this and call this flicker duration max. And then one more thing, this will be my random min. I will add this in, it's not in yet, but we will do this in a moment, and random max. So we have a bunch of values here. Now I have to link them, therefore I just lock my effect controls now, and here now I can just put in, instead of these numbers, I will pick whip my sliders. So, and let's put in the values right away so that we have the right values in here. So I think this was set to 1. Not sure. Doesn't matter, we change it anyway. So let's put in here, I will just copy these values before I pick whip them. So 0.5, 0.8, and here I want to have something like 40 and 60 for now. Okay, so now let's take this one here and replace it with our slider seg max. Let's take this one here, replace it with our flicker min duration. Let's take this one here and replace it with our max duration. And now I will bring in my second value here, so I can just directly pick whip this in here, my random min. Then we need a comma, and instead of my random max, I will now use this slider here. Good. So the expression should work, still work, if I didn't mess anything up, and I think it does, because otherwise we would have gotten an error already. So now nothing is happening because I did not link my effects to this slider. But before I do that, let me quickly check the result here, whether it's working. And yeah, I think that everything is working fine. Looks quite good. You see what I created now? I have these intervals, and then it is changing the value randomly between 40 and 60 units. So this should be fine for RGB split and also for our displacement. Now I have to let me go out of the graph editor. Now, first of all, let me just select all of these layers here and let me put in max here, because this way we can get the max horizontal displacement values visible. And now I can just pick whip all of these, alt click the stopwatch and then to take the pick whip to my glitch amount. Now I can just come in here, copy expression only and just paste it in. Good. Okay, now you see we have some glitching going on, and it is glitching exactly in the intervals that I specified, but it's not really what I want because there is no RGB split. And I want to introduce the RGB split by adding a wiggle to the position here. So let's just select these again and let's put in a P or press P for position. And now I want to add an expression here. So alt click the stopwatch and let's start with a wiggle expression. And I want to wiggle this. Let's see how many times. Actually, I could also create a slider for that, but I won't do that now. I will just put in something here. Let's say maybe 12 times a second. And the amount of the wiggle should be this glitch amount. So far, so good. Now let's just copy this expression and paste it into my other positions. Now I will come in here. Actually, just select these 3 layers. Press EE to reveal our expressions. And I will change these a bit so that they are not wiggling at the same speed. So I will set this to 10 and I will set this to maybe something like 9 or 8 even. Good. And just by doing that, now you see it's creating this quite heavy wiggle and displacement. So I think I may have overdone it a little bit with my values, but stick with me, I will correct it in the next step. What I can do now is I can just add a posterize effect here again, or posterize expression, I should say. So let's put this to posterize 6, then copy it down here into my next one here. Now it is somehow giving me an error. I don't know why. Well, we will see. Should not create an error, actually. So let's put this in here and change this to 4. Now let's take a look. And yeah, you see that by adding this posterize, it's a little bit better because now it's quite nice and quite glitchy again. So I really like this. This looks really cool. Quite satisfied with the outcome here. Awesome. And maybe I will just reduce my my amounts here a bit. I could turn this down to 30, maybe 55. Then you see that the glitching will not be that harsh, something like that. So you can still come in here and control this quite nice through these values. Okay, so this is the basic setup that we have got. We have now our glitching and we can control it by using these values here on our slider control. That's pretty cool. Now we can introduce a few more things. So one thing that I always like to do, I always like to add a few more glitches in here. And how can we do that? Well, pretty simple. We just add a new adjustment layer on top, or let's put it under my control layer. And I will call this my tint now. So now I will add a tint effect to this adjustment layer, tint effect. And we will set this to something interesting, maybe a bit of a desaturated dark blue. And maybe, let's see what we can do here. Something like that. Bit of interesting colors. Yeah, that looks quite nice, I think. Okay, but of course I do not want to affect the whole image. It looks cool, but we lose our RGB split that way. So I want to use my displacement map actually to control my tint. So let's do that. Let's duplicate this and let's put it on top of my tint layer. I will just colorize these two so that we know they belong together. And now I will set my tint layer, my adjustment layer, to track matte. So let's set this to Luma matte. And now my displacement map is controlling the areas where this gets colorized. And actually, to be honest, in this layout here with this image, I think that the red is not a good idea. So maybe we'll just go with gray values here. And this is probably a little bit better to do something like that, because otherwise it gets a little bit too crazy. So this looks quite nice. And now I can add another effect, and I will use a Venetian blind here, just to make this a bit more interesting and just to add a bit more detail. I will set this now to 50% and the orientation to 90, and I will bring down the width here quite a bit, so maybe something like 5. Now we get these nice strokes here. And I want to add another thing here. I want to add a noise effect. Just add it and set it to not that high of an amount, something like 25. And maybe we also use just black and white noise. Okay, and that way we added another dimension of glitches and of artifacts. But the problem is they are visible all the time, and I actually don't like that. So there's a simple solution for that. We just go to our opacity here, and we still have our controls here, and I can now pick whip the opacity directly to my glitch amount. This way now it will glitch, or it will appear whenever my RGB split is happening. If you want to separate these, you could just come in here and copy this expression, this one here, and put it directly in your opacity here and change the values a bit. Then this tint and these effects that I put on this adjustment layer will have their own individual durations and intervals. But now everything is together, and you see we created some really, really cool, complex, crazy glitches. And now the funny thing is you can put in here whatever you want. So for example, let me put in another image here. Let's take a look what this does. For example, one of my dancers here. By the way, the images I used for the preview video are all from unsplash.com. It's a really cool website if you want to check that out. I will put a link in the video description. I will probably forget half of the things that I promised to put in the video description, but just remind me in the comments if you realize that I forgot something. Happens all the time. So let's put in our dancer. Let's take a look how he feels when we glitch him like this. I think he feels probably good. Yeah, it's really, really cool. I like it. Very glitchy, very cool. Okay, so now let me think for a moment whether I forgot anything that I wanted to show you, that I wanted to share. Did I forget anything? Yes, I forgot one thing. One more little thing I forgot. Actually, I really forgot it. So there is an option how you can make this even more interesting. And this is just adding another adjustment layer here on top here. And I call this my transform. So what I did with this, I added a transform effect to this. And now let's add a transform effect. The transform effect is really cool. You can, I just misspelled that here. I'm getting tired a little bit already. It's quite long. The session is quite long. I'm sitting here quite a while and recording. Okay, so let's focus the last minutes here of this tutorial. Now, the transform effect is cool. You can apply it on, for example, an adjustment layer, and then you can just shift everything that is under it. But you can, of course, also apply it directly to your layers, and then you have the same settings that you have inside these layers. But this way you can just copy this, you can create a nice rotation, whatever animations, and then just copy the whole transform effect and paste it on another layer. So I really like this, and I use it quite often, especially when working in templates or on templates. But in this case, I want to use it to introduce another level, or another level of glitch here, of displacement. So I will just shift this a little bit, just to demonstrate this, something like that. And now, again, I will use my displacement map, so Control D, to just limit this transform. Set it to Luma Matte. And now you see what we've got here. So now if I go to my transform and if I move it, you see what this does. This just creates another layer of glitching here. And that's actually quite cool. So now it glitches even more. Is even cooler. And if you want to get rid of these areas here that get transparent, this is just because this layer is shifted, we can simply add another effect to our footage comps, and this is called, now I forgot what it's called. CC Reptile, I think. Reptile? Yeah, you could also use Motion Tile, but Reptile is quite easy to use. So just add, don't know, 200 to left and right, and it's just copy it over to our layers. And now you see that this is gone now. Okay. Good. So now let's take a look. Now we have really, really heavy glitches going on here, but I think that it is really totally cool. Very nice effect. Yes, cool. Okay, so this is it with this tutorial. If you liked it, then please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I also want to invite you to check out my website, which is www.graphicinmotion.com. And again, I want to remind you that we have 2 related products on my Gumroad page. First of all, the Glitch Promo After Effects template. If you want to check this out, you get 50% discount with the code, the discount code that you can find in the video description. And of course, to save a lot of time, actually to save the whole part, number 1 of this tutorial series, you can save this by just purchasing this Glitch Pack, 20 animated displacement maps. And the price is really good, $10, but for you guys who are watching this video, it's only $5 with the 50% discount. So check this out. Thank you very much for watching, and I really hope to see you soon. Goodbye.